Objective criticism, such as Kishore's, is one of the reasons that parties champion for wider access to IDP camps in the north. It is only understandable that conditions would be far from ideal, given the number of civilians inhabiting the camps. However, if more people are given access to camps, it will not only ensure greater accountability on the part of the government, but will also contribute towards greater understanding of the massive task the government has to handle and instill confidence that its efforts are indeed paying off. Still on the subject of IDPs, Tarika spoke to Amin Awad of the UNHCR about the significance of World Refugee Day in Sri Lanka's current context.
Thanks for joining me on the program, Mr. Awad. In a little while, I'm going to ask you about World Refugee Day, but first I want to focus on Sri Lanka. Now, on one hand, it seems like our refugee problem is the worst that it's ever been, but on the other hand, the war is over, and that means the problem has stabilized, at least from the previous year. My first question to you is, what is the UNHCR's foremost concern this year as opposed to the previous year?
Well, you're right, the war has ended and the situation should stabilize. There's no open conflict. On the other hand, the end of the war, after long years, produced a massive number of internally displaced Sri Lankan for whom we have to find solutions. And before we find these solutions, while they are in camps, they have to exercise their rights, their freedom of movement, their protection, and their basic human rights. These are challenges that we're facing now. The other challenge we're facing for the other 360,000 people, aside from this new caseload of 300,000 because of the war in the north, the old caseload is there for a long period of time, and they're also equally awaiting durable solutions. So we have to work on both sides of the equation here to make sure that everybody get their share of fair economic opportunities, return, and above all, protection as they enter their homes, protection and return in safety and dignity.
Now, resettlement is the main focus at the moment, to resettle the new IDPs in the north. What kind of time frame is the goal here? Because the conditions in the camps are far from ideal, understandably, given the vast numbers and everything. So what kind of time frame are we looking at in terms of resettling every last person?
Well, if we look at the East, we shouldn't go far in the context of Sri Lanka. In the first 6 months, when the return started, we returned about 70 to 80% of the people. Given the conditions in areas of return, a lot of work has to be done for that percentage of people to go back. The government plan is 180 days. It's a good plan, and it may help in facilitating the return of these people, but there are a lot of conditions have to be put in place, and a lot of obstacles for return have to be removed. Chief among them is the issue of mines and unexploded objects, the restoration of services, the basic infrastructure, the construction and repair of individual homes. These are priorities that have to be looked at before people return.
Okay, but the government has said they plan to resettle 80% by the end of the year. Do you think this is a realistic goal?
It can be realistic if it starts right away. And we keep calling on the government to make that plan clear, have the input of others, so that we can together move very fast to realize that objective.
All right. Now, coming back to the conditions in the camps, which has been an issue of contention, I think, amongst many parties. It's understandable given the huge numbers and the security concerns, but even with these factors, do you think it's possible to improve the conditions of the camps at the moment?
Of course, it is possible. The conflict ended, the flow stopped, and usually it takes anywhere between 6 weeks to 10 weeks to improve conditions in camps in situations like this when the flow stops. So the flow stopped around the 19th or 20th of May. We had a lot of work done during the last 4 weeks to improve the conditions The most important thing is to decongest, to get more land so that we can move people out from the crowded areas. And once you do that, everything else will follow as far as improvement. The water, sanitation, health, overcrowding, it will disappear. So it will take time to improve things, but things have improved tremendously during the last 4 weeks.
So much of this work is in the hands of the government and also agencies such as yours, UNHCR. But what about what other people can do? What do you think about the private sector, for example?
The private sector, as the case in many other countries, have a major role to play, and it is part of the corporate social responsibility, which I see here started on a very small scale. For example, we have joint ventures now with Brandix, which is a 100% Sri Lankan company, with HSBC, which is an international foreign bank in Sri Lankan soil, who are interested in supporting IDPs through our organizations. Some of them, I understand, are supporting directly, but perhaps their work is not publicized as others. But I think the Chamber of Commerce and the private sector in Sri Lanka has a big role to play in supporting the IDPs.
Do you think they are playing that role, or is there more that they can do quite apart from corporate social responsibility? Do you think there is a bigger role that they can play at the moment?
There is a bigger role they can play. To start with, they can maximize their opportunities, business opportunities, if you look at it from a business perspective, in making sure that, for example, most of the relief items and the support to IDPs is bought from Sri Lankan products at the open market, perhaps concessions. This is not charity. This is pure business. They can do business that way. But I heard of a lot of plans. I think the problem is for these plans to materialize. I hear a lot of talks from business people, from the business community and larger, how they can get involved. But sometimes the plan does not go further to be operationalized.
World Refugee Day is commemorated every year on the 20th of June, but it seems a grim reality that the numbers of refugees keep increasing from year to year. My final question to you is, do you think that the governments around the world are paying enough attention to this problem?
It is a problem that they don't have choice but to face, and it can be faced by good practices, by being good members of the international community, for states to take up their responsibilities as far as protection of refugees and asylum seekers, by being part of the 1951 Convention on Refugees, and by being part of the 1964 Convention on Statelessness, because this is another problem that a lot of displaced people or people in exile are facing, sometimes also in their own countries. And I think the problem is not going to go away without regulation, without policies, and without adhering to international instruments, also to enable them to be part of a bigger family that can support each other. And also refugees is a national and international and regional security concern. If they're not tackled in a very careful manner and in consultation with those who are concerned, things can go wrong.
It takes development and sustenance of all communities to make a nation peaceful and stable. We're going in for a break now, but when we come back, we take a look at an inspiring figure who, in his lifetime, revolutionized the social and political involvement of the Muslim community in Sri Lanka.